studying Halach Ma'anya. This is the bread of affliction that our forefathers ate in the land of Egypt. The question is, what's the reason why Halach Ma'anya is written in Aramaic? That was the question that our friend Jerry asked. He says, why is it written in Aramaic? So we're going to give to this question, 12 answers to this question. 12 answers to this question. 12 answers to this question. Well, yeah, Me'al and Ner. Why is the Hanukkah written? Why is the miracle 8 days and not 7 days? So what's the reason why Halach Ma'anya is written in Aramaic and not in Hebrew like the rest of the Haggadah? The rest of the Haggadah is written in Hebrew. So Rashi wrote this. By the way, a lot of people know Rashi because do you need help finding the place, Ben?
Well, I got volume 2. I need volume.
Just give me that blue Haggadah in front of you and I'll show you. So, perfect. Okay. So
Thank you.
Rashi says that if we would have, so Rashi wrote a book. It's associated with Sifros Debei Rashi. It's called Sefer Apardes. Sefer Apardes. So this is one of what's called the literature coming out of Rashi. He writes that if we would have said this in Hebrew, okay, now you might not like this, but this is what Rashi writes, then the Shadim would hear that we were making this proclamation that who's ever hungry will come and eat, and they would come into our home and to eat. So therefore we say it in Aramaic, because the Talmud tells us in Haggadah that the Shadim don't know Aramaic.
What do they eat?
They eat everything.
Shadim eat everything?
They eat everything. Shadim are demons. So we want to make sure that the demons don't come in, so therefore we say it in Aramaic. Because Shadim don't know Aramaic.
Really good at hearing that.
That's the first answer. But the Rokeach also was in Ashkenaz. And the Bayatosos, they say, but it says, why do you have to be worried about the Shadim? This is great, by the way. This is amazing. This is still answer number 1. They say, why do you have to worry about Shadim tonight? It's Leil Shimurim. Pesach night is the night where we're watched. And we're protected from the demons. And so therefore, the Talmud says, what does it mean when it says the demons don't come in on themselves to do damage? But if you would say it in a language that they understand, then they would come and do damage. Meaning to say, they're saying, yeah, the demons are not going to do damage on their own, but if they hear that they're invited in, then they're going to get their foot in the door. And okay. Another answer is, yeah, they're not going to do damage, but we still don't want to have our Seder with the demons. Okay. Okay.
Kills the vibe.
Right, kills the vibe. Okay, that's the first answer. Reb Sasson, we're discussing the question of why on Seder night do we start in Aramaic, Halach Ma'anya. That's Jerry asked that question, and we have 12 answers to that question. We do the first one so far, which is Rashi's answers. The demons don't know Aramaic, so we don't want them to hear. Number 2, the Manig was 14th century Provence. He writes that he says that the reason why that we put this in the common language is because we want to publicize the miracle and people speak that language. So therefore, initially it was done that way so that people can know that language. A third answer, even though today very few people speak Aramaic, even though we met some, but very few people speak Aramaic. The third answer is the Shiboi Aleket. He writes that in Jerusalem, Aramaic is an expression of joy. So that's what the Shiboi Aleket. He was 13th century Italian, and he wrote that. And he explains, but the Be'er Miriam writes, I'm not sure the Be'er Miriam he writes, but we never find Aramaic as an expression of joy. So he explains that it means when you have he says it's what's called a euphemistic language. It's an expression of joy. It means it's just the opposite, an expression of lament. And so therefore, we're discussing here why the temple was destroyed, why we're having a Seder. So we do it in Aramaic, which is an expression of lament. So basically, it's either joy or lament, and both answers are reflected. Okay. A fourth answer, Jerry. This is you got to remember all these. Seth is taking copious notes. The fourth answer is the Ritva. Ritva is Spanish. And he writes, also 14th century, he writes that this expression, halach ma'anya, is not from the Mishnah. It's after the Mishnah. It was added in by the authors of the Talmud. And since it was added in by the authors of the Talmud, therefore they wrote it in Aramaic because that's what they spoke in. And so also they wanted they also wanted all the people at the table to understand, the women and the children, because they speak in Aramaic. So therefore they wrote in a language that everybody speaks in at that time. So I guess if that's the case, then why do we still do it? We do it because we don't, first of all, we never like to change anything. If you don't believe me, look at the Hasidim, they only speak Yiddish. Every single announcement on our trip was in Yiddish. I had to ask some people, I would go to the people who are on the plane, they're making all the announcements. So I said to the person in front of me, what do you say? He says, don't worry. Every time. Every announcement was in Yiddish.
Probably better than most.
No, they had like a 10-minute announcement on the plane. What time is Kriya Shema? The best time to do Kriya Shema, so we know when to daven, because they only wanted 1 million. They said 1 million, and nobody congregated in the aisles. 1 million. Of course, when they got up to daven, everybody started their own minyan, but they were all davening at the same time. You can't hear from one end to the other. Okay. Right. It was the whole plane. Everybody was davening at the same time. It was because they charged the whole plane. Anyway, okay. Next answer. The Ritva brings the Abu Draham. The Abu Draham is also 14th century Provençal. That if we would say it in Hebrew, then the angels would understand Hebrew. The angels don't know Aramaic either. And the angels would understand that we're praising God. And they would come and say, no, it's not. They would come and give they would give a knock against us. They said, we should never have been redeemed. The angels say, who do these people think they are to get redeemed? And so therefore we say it in Aramaic because the angels don't understand Aramaic, as the Gemara in Shabbos 12b states.
I'm sorry, why would the angels be bothered that they were praising God?
Because we're not really worthy to be redeemed. That's what they're saying. The angels say, who do you think these people? There is some tension in the Talmud between the angels and the humans.
So are we whisper birch?
Yeah. So like there is some tension there. The angels are like, the humans don't, because on a certain level we're closer to God than the angels. On another level, the angels are closer. So there's tension there.
I'm sorry to actually isn't here, but this reminds me of, I can't tell the whole joke, but there's a joke that involves the shamus and the rabbi and somebody else. It's like saying, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
And then someone says, look who says he's not worthy.
Yeah.
So that's the punchline. So this is like the angels sin. You're not good enough to be humble.
Well, there is definitely tension there. There's definitely tension there. Now the sixth answer is from the Shiboi Aleket in the name of his brother Rabbi Binyamin, and it says on the book of Eicha in Lamentations, Judah was exiled from their sin. Galta Yehuda Me'oni. Well, what's the reason why we were exiled? Listen to this, because we ate chametz on Pesach, and so therefore they instituted this in Aramaic, which is the language of Babylon, to remind us at the very beginning that this was the sin that caused us to be exiled. Did you ever know that? Wow.
Prior to the Pesach story in the time of Judah, the Jews ate chametz on Pesach. Is that what you're saying?
They're saying that's the reason. Yeah, that's the reason we were exiled.
Should have known, even though they didn't have that.
No, the reason why the temple was destroyed, the reason we were exiled to Babylon in the first temple was because we ate chametz on Pesach. So therefore, we're reminding ourselves of that sin. Yes, Reb David, Baruch atah Adonai.
You thought that we're speaking the language of exile. So we start by, reminding ourselves in our own language that we're of the experience of exile. And it's the invitation to everybody.
That's very close to the seventh answer, very, very close of the Barbanel, who was exiled from Spain. And he wrote that the reason why they established halach ma'anya in Aramaic because it contains in this phrase an invitation to the poor. It says that all who are hungry come and eat. And that is said in Aramaic because you want them to come in. And the poor people don't know Hebrew. They were uneducated. They didn't know the Hebrew, so they only knew the language that they could understand, the language of the exile. It's almost exactly what David said. And now we have another answer. This is called Pirush Kadmon. And I don't know exactly where this is from. Pirush Kadmon writes that because the pouring of the cup of wine will only happen, the second cup of wine will get poured only when we say manashtana, and that's where we start telling about the Exodus. And because we don't want to come and pour the cup before that, so therefore they said halach ma'ayin Aramaic as a reminder that as long as we're speaking Aramaic, we don't pour the cup of salvation, because the Aramaic is reminding us of the servitude. Okay, all these answers they're all what's called cute, but they're also pointing to a deep lesson, which is remember to invite the poor, remember to open your home, remember that we're not in salvation yet, we're not redeemed yet. So these are all there. The Ezer Elio writes that they said in Aramaic so that because it was sent to the nations of the world who lived in Babylon, the local Babylonians, that the Jewish people are not ungrateful. That we want to make the point of gratitude. That we want to show the world our gratitude. We want to show that a Jew is somebody who is grateful. And so therefore, we want, if there's only one idea of the Seder that we want them to know about, it's that we Jews express gratitude. That's the one idea we want them to know. And so therefore, they were saying at the beginning, this is the part we want the nations of the world to know. It's not meant for the uneducated Jews who only know Aramaic. It's meant for the nations of the world. Know that we are saying this part in Aramaic, that we are grateful to God. And so if somebody wants to ask you, and they're not Jewish, what's Passover Seder about? It's about gratitude to Hashem. That's what the Ezer Elio writes. The Midrash Chidush explains that it's known that the Targum is Aramaic expression from the one who's always prosecuting against Israel. And so therefore, you're not supposed to ask from the prosecutor in heaven. So therefore, don't make requests in Aramaic because the angels don't know it. And so therefore, in order so that he doesn't prosecute us, they established, there's a little bit complicated answer. I mean, this answer takes more time to develop. So let me get to that one last. Do Vayagin Moshe, he explains in the Zerah Kodesh. Wow! Quoting the Zerah Kodesh. Do you know who the Zerah Kodesh is? I was at his kever last night at midnight. I was at the Zerah HaKodesh kever. The Zerah HaKodesh is the Ropshitzer Rebbe. The Ropshitzer Rebbe. I was at his kever last night, and we were davening there. And this is what the Zerah HaKodesh says. And the Zerah HaKodesh, by the way, was a student of Rabbi Elimelech, but Rabbi Elimelech didn't want to take him first because he had too much yichus. He said, I can't take you in. So he had to humble himself, and only then did he take him in. He explains that Lashon HaKodesh Hebrew is the revealed language, but the Aramaic is the hidden. And so therefore, the purpose of Exodus on this night is that a person should become, should have awakened to a complete faith that he'll see with his eye how HaKadosh Baruch Hu has divine providence. And so therefore, we begin and end in Aramaic. And so therefore, how do we begin and end in Aramaic? So therefore, we start with here in Aramaic, and then we end in Aramaic. How do we end in Aramaic? Haggadah. So therefore, the whole purpose of the Seder is to take from the hidden and make it revealed. And Aramaic, because it's the translation, it represents the hidden. Why does it represent the hidden? So the Zerah Kodesh has a whole discussion here, and a lot of what the Zerah Kodesh says comes from Rabbi Elimelech. So maybe tomorrow we'll start with this little point from the Zerah Kodesh. Wow, what a sign from Hashem. I've never quoted the Zerah Kodesh in this group, but last night I was at his kever, and now he's shouting to us. The Zerah Kodesh says, come back to the yeshiva today and study exactly what I have to say. Wow. Anybody have questions about this? All right, we'll go into the Zerah Kodesh tomorrow. We'll do more.